Hello and welcome out to this episode of Outbreak Gamers. I'm your host, David Anthony, and I am very fortunate to have with me tonight Randall Thor19. Rand, how you doing, buddy?
What's going on? Thanks for having me. This
Oh,
is gonna
dude.
be it's gonna be very interesting, very fun. Hopefully, right?
I hope so. Yeah, exactly. Well, like I said, I don't want to torture you or put you on the rack or don't worry. We're going to find out all the information about Mr. Rand. No, it's gonna be a fun time, man. And I don't do trivia questions
Like Fonz.
like Fonz. Yeah, I love his show. Don't get me wrong.
His show's amazing.
It is, and
Five questions.
I couldn't get any of those. I'll tell you that. I do have some questions, but I promise you they'll be a lot easier to answer. Oh goodness. Well, Rand, let's kind of get started. Well, again, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. So let's get started with, I guess, growing up and maybe some of your your first like jobs and things like that you may have done. Something that maybe somebody doesn't necessarily know about you.
Growing up, okay, so I went to a Catholic grammar school, first grade to eighth grade, and then I went to a Catholic all boys high school, which was great in some aspects, but then it sucked because there was no girls, right?
Right.
But hey, you could show up. You could show up to class wearing whatever. Well, not wearing whatever because there was a dress code, but you didn't have to worry about what you look like because
Right.
Let's see. My first job that I worked at was, I think I got my first job when I was 15, and that was working at KFC, which I actually enjoyed for about a year. It was awful during the summer because the kitchen was really hot, but for the most part, because I was able to actually convince all my friends to get a job there too. So going to work was just like hanging out with my buddies because we all ended up getting jobs there. And then at the end of the night, whatever they were going to throw away, they throw everything away so we could just take stuff.
Nice.
So every night we'd come home with a bunch of chicken tenders or whatever. So eventually then I did construction work and did became like a unit electrician and stuff like that. But
Very cool.
yeah, so that was a little bit of the
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 backstory?
early years, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. Everybody seems like you got to do something or start somewhere and things. So it's I always kind of like asking that because, I mean, some things you may cover on your show, which is a fantastic show, by the way. We'll get into that a little later. But and then it's just kind of a curiosity thing because I watched a lot of these podcasts and I'm like, sometimes you throw out a little nugget here and there, and I'm like, oh, what do you mean? Oh, really? Because I found that you like reading books. So how did that come about? I mean, is it just a passion or just a escape or?
Well, I mean, it was actually during high school. Like, we all read books. I remember, doing book reports in grammar school, right? It didn't actually become like a passion of mine. Like video games is like a passion. I guess they're both hobbies.
Right.
It was during high school, and I was in like all honors classes, and I think it was sophomore year. It was like we had all these books we had to read, and one of these books was called Magician Apprentice, and then we also had to read the sequel Magician Master. And this is back in, let's see, I would have been sophomore, so that would have been like 1997. So yeah, I'm a little bit old.
I got you beat.
So it's like sometimes you just like it's like, okay, I got to read these books for class, and I got to like remember the stuff, and there's tests, and they got to write a book report and all this stupid stuff. So it's like you're not really looking forward to reading because I mean, who really looks forward to reading? At least I didn't when I was that age, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then I picked up Magician Apprentice, and I just was enthralled by everything. Like, I think I finished the book in like 3 days, and we had like 3 weeks to read it. I read it in 2 days. I read the next book in 3 days. Wow. I read like the 5 sequels in the next like month. So by the time we were taking the test on the first book, I was already like on the 6th book in the series.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it kind of started my a love affair with science fiction, fantasy, especially epic fantasy, high fantasy stuff like Lord of the Rings and whatnot. And
Hmm.
so I started to kind of look for similar stories, especially when I finished all the published works in that series, the Magician series, and I came across Wheel of Time, which, as most people know, my gamer tag is Randall Thor19. My YouTube channel is Randall Thor19. Randall Thor is the main character of the Wheel of Time. It's like my favorite books series. It's probably, I don't know, I think it's probably my favorite entertainment, like even more than any TV or video game. I think
Right.
I've read it so many times, and yeah, so like I just kind of just would keep on going down these rabbit holes of all these different stories, and at some point I kind of stopped reading. I
Hmm.
kind of I had to sell my collection, which I still regret to this day, and
Right.
I recently, because Wheel of Time was picked up and by Amazon and they did a TV show. I saw the trailer and immediately brought back up all those nostalgic memories that I have for the series,
Right.
and I really just kind of felt compelled to finish the story because when I stopped back in 2005, Robert Jordan, the author, wasn't finished yet, and he died a couple years later.
Oh, bumming.
And I thought, oh, well, they're never going to finish the story. But then they actually did. They hired somebody else. So even though I knew the story was complete, I was kind of just like, I don't want to go down that path anymore. Like I felt like it was a part of my life that I left behind or whatever. But seeing that trailer, I'm just like, I have to finish this. And it's a 14 book series, like 4 million words, whatever it is. And I think I finished it in a month and a half.
That's
And
pretty
then that
good.
really kind of just lit a fire under me to like start reading some of the newer series. So I haven't really read anything new since 2004. So, in that time frame of like 17, 18 years, there's been a lot of new series that have come out. So I started to kind of buy stuff I thought I would enjoy. So, yeah, I've kind of just been, a lot of my time recently has been just kind of sitting back and just enjoying some of the things I missed. And I don't know, I love it. It's very enjoyable. Although it is very, I lose track of time really quickly because I could sit there and read, and then next thing I know, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, oh
Right.
man, or it's just I get so like immersed into it. I just lose track of everything around me. So, but yeah.
Right. Well, that's good though. I mean, that you have something that you're that passionate about that that you really want to, that you really are that into. I think that's great. So, because there's sometimes, you just gotta, when people don't really find, their niche or what, really excites them. And I mean, reading is, I, unfortunately, I'm dyslexic. So
Mhm.
reading was always kind of tough, to be honest with you. I could do it. Don't get me wrong. But like, I actually really enjoy audiobooks. Once that kind of started trending and started, coming out, man, Audible was my new best friend.
Right,
you
yeah.
know,
I
and
never I
it's,
never could get into audiobooks.
well, it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah, for me it's like I can't I find myself getting distracted listening to it.
Right.
Like I'm like like I'm not like I'll, like my attention will drift, and you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I'll just kind of like just not pay full attention. That's why like for me it's like I have the book in my hand and I'm paying full attention to it. But like listening to something, always at some point I just like, what did he say?
Right.
And it's just like I'd have to rewind it or whatever, and it's just like, yeah, I just for whatever reason I just can't dedicate my full attention to something if I'm just listening to it.
Yeah, and that makes sense because I mean, if it's the book and you got the words and you're reading it, so you only will know what's next if you actually read the next word. where
Yeah.
the audiobook it's like done for you. But like I said, and that's nice that there's actually the options now that you can actually listen to an audiobook or you can read it yourself.
Yeah, that's great.
So that is great. It got me into a lot of like the whole Hunger Games series before
Hmm.
they were a movie. I mean, I love those books. I thought they were fantastic. You know, the George R. R. Martin. The whole
Yeah,
Game of
Game of
Thrones
Thrones.
series. Oh
Yep.
my gosh,
Too
love
bad he'll
those.
never finish him.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately.
Why would he when he's got so much other money he can make doing other things? He could just leave that
Yeah, I
in
don't think he wants to
limbo.
finish him.
I don't think so either. To be honest with you, it makes sense. So, but he's gonna keep telling everybody he is, or maybe he'll have him in a can, and when he's gone someday, maybe it'll be like, oh, guess what? Who knows? But that's neither here nor there. So I guess let's get into how you got into, I guess, gaming. Like, what was your first gaming experience?
So like I mean, I had like the ColecoVision and like the Atari systems, but I
Hmm.
really don't remember them.
Right.
So my first like gaming memory is of the NES. I remember going over to a friend's house in Wisconsin for summer vacation, and he was playing Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and that just kind of, I was just amazed by what I was seeing. I couldn't believe it.
Hmm.
And I remember getting an NES, the triple pack, I believe it was. It was you get Super Mario Brothers, you get
Yeah.
Track and Field with the pad that you could run on,
Bad.
and then Duck Hunt with the light gun.
A gun. Yep.
Yep. And yeah, that kind of started the love affair with games. My grandparents were also very good to me because, so like my mom was kind of like, she didn't want me to get into video games, right? She was like, don't. So like I'd ask for like video games for my birthday or for Christmas, especially Christmas, and she'd be like, no. But I could always go to my grandma. So
Hmm.
every Christmas, I would get like 20 NES games, right?
Nice.
And so I mean, I had a collection of like 150 NES games. And it was funny because like as I got older, obviously like you kind of know what an NES like package looked like, cuz you could tell. So they
Yeah.
started getting smarter, and then like they would hide them in like clothes boxes, cuz I remember one year all the presents would come in, and I remember looking at them like I didn't recognize any of like the shapes. I'm like, they didn't give me any video games this year, right? Like what? And there was
Sneaky.
all these clothes boxes, and I'm just like, oh man, I don't want any clothes. But within like 6 of those clothes boxes were like 4 games apiece. So like hit them
Nice.
within the clothes boxes. So yes, I went from the NES and I moved to the Sega Genesis, and I had the 32X and the Sega CD. And then from there, it basically was like PlayStation to Xbox to what, like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. I was a big PlayStation fanboy back during the PS1 and PS2 eras.
Right.
I only really started getting into Xbox when Halo 2 started to come out. And that's what basically brought me to Xbox, is my love of like, God, Halo 2 just like changed the world for me. I
Did for a lot of people. You're right.
Yeah, like that was my first real taste of online multiplayer, and I was one of those people that never was like who cares about online multiplayer, right? I remember when I got the Xbox, and we didn't get like the Xbox Live with it, right?
Right.
My younger brother, he wanted to go online, so he was like, I think he came home and he had like that package where it's like, you get like the 12-month card, and it came with like a headset or whatever.
Hmm.
And he's like, well, what should the gamer tag be? Because it was my system, right? Because I bought it.
Right.
He's like, what should the gamer tag be? And I was just like, Randall Thor, because it's like I was thinking, I'm like, well, I was like, it's my favorite character from my favorite book series, right? Like the main
Right.
character. So he's like, put in Randall Thor, and it was taken.
Man.
So his birthday is September 19th. So he just threw 19 at the end. And okay, yeah,
There you
accepted,
go.
right?
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there watching him play Halo 2 online, and I just was like jealous because it seemed so cool, and he seemed like he was having so much fun. So I remember like basically like I started to play, even though I said I didn't want to, even though I said I wasn't going to give him any money for it. I was gonna, be the one to play it. So I took it over, and I basically played Halo 2 like nonstop every single day for over a year. And today, if I had to like rank my top 5 games of all time, like Halo 2 would easily be in there, like in that top 5, strictly just for the multiplayer.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think because you listen to the podcast, I'm not the biggest Nintendo fan.
Right.
Because after the NES, I didn't get a Super Nintendo. In fact, I've never played a Super Nintendo game. Right? I didn't own a 64, but my friends did.
Right.
But I never played like any of the Zelda games outside of the original. Like what I played it on the 64 was WCW versus NWO Revenge and
There you go.
WWF No Mercy, because we were all like really big into wrestling at that time. It was like that was with the height of the Attitude Era and like the Monday Night Wars, with The Rock, Stone Cold, the NWO and stuff. So that's what I would play in the 64 when we were over at their house. I never played any of the other games on there outside of maybe like Super Mario 64 or whatever. And I got a GameCube when it was like $99 to play the Metroid Prime games. But
Nice.
yeah, for the most part, like I'm not the biggest fan of Nintendo. So, but yeah, I've been gaming like since I can remember, since the NES. But I did have some of the Atari systems. I just don't have any actual memories of them.
Right. Right. Too young, probably.
Yeah.
Where I was like, yeah, I was a young boy, but I remember playing them because I'm older than you are.
I remember playing them at my cousin's house.
Yeah.
But I just don't remember. I just don't remember playing it at my house, even though I remember the systems in my closet. Like I remember the ColecoVision and what it looked like because it was
Yeah.
in my closet, but I don't remember playing the ColecoVision.
Right.
So
So when you got your you talked enjoying the multiplayer, but did you ever, I guess, with the first Halo, did you ever do like LAN parties or anything like that?
no, I never did any LAN parties. That was already like because I didn't get into Halo until 2, so
That's cool.
yeah, that was already 4 years after that. So no, didn't get into any of the LAN party stuff because when I went away to school, college, that was 1999, and I don't think Halo had come out yet.
Oh yeah.
Because Halo
Right.
came out in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Halo 1 came out in 2001.
I think so.
Yeah, so I had already kind of left school and didn't go back, so I missed out on that whole like LAN party craziness that would have happened at school and stuff. So
Right. Right. So I guess with that, with getting into doing the online multiplayer, and then of course the with your gamer tag and everything, and then they introduced the gamer score at some point, and
yeah.
I guess that kind of did it excite you, or was it just kind of just lucked into it, or just or did it become an obsession, or how'd that build for you?
Well, obviously, you get over 1 million gamer score or 500,000 gamer score. Yeah, it's obviously an obsession because you're not going to do that unless you're not obsessed with getting it.
Right.
But there's varying degrees
Correct.
of it. But I remember when they announced it for the thing was I was waiting for the PS3 because I was a PlayStation guy.
Yeah.
And then all PlayStation showings was like, oh, it's $600. You got to get a second job.
Yeah.
And the games all look terrible. Like I remember like Layer and all, like these games look awful.
Yep.
And so I was like, well, I'm not getting a PS3 right away. So I got a 360 mainly because Halo 2 was going to be upscaled on it. So it wasn't like I really wanted anything. It really wasn't because I really wanted anything on Xbox. It was just like, okay, Halo 2 is going to look better on the 360.
Hmm.
So I got it, and I was playing Halo on it. But I ended up buying like Perfect Dark Zero with the system, and I think I also bought Call of Duty 2. And after I was done playing some Halo, I put in Perfect Dark Zero and hated it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna play some Call of Duty 2, and I loved it. But the thing was, getting these achievements, I'm thinking to myself, like, what are these things? Like, these are kind of cool, right? Like,
Right.
and normally the way I would play my games is I just would play them on whatever difficulty it started it on, right? Because to me, it's about the experience of beating the game. It's not necessarily like challenging myself, like I need to beat it at the hardest difficulty. I just wanted to play the game.
Right.
But suddenly the Call of Duty achievements were like, you gotta beat the game on veteran. So like, it was really the first time that I had gone out and like set, like, okay, I'm gonna play this on the hardest difficulty, you know? So I was like, okay, so I went and I beat Call of Duty 2 on veteran, got the 1,000 gamer score, and I was like, I like this. And I already had a GameFly account because I was getting games for my GameCube and my PS2.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, well I can get all these games sent to me from GameFly. So I started going through all the launch games, and I would play everything that would come out, and to the point like, and at that point in time, like, since there was like a set amount of points you could get, there was a community that built up, and people, like, you knew people based on it, like who had the most gamer score, right? And you kind of like made friends with people within that community, so you could, boost multiplayer achievements with and stuff like that. So a community started to form around achievements, and it was just so much fun playing all these different games to get these points. Yeah, sometimes you got to play the bad ones like Barbie Puppy Rescue and Hannah Montana and stuff.
Game?
Yeah, I mean, I played a lot of awful games for achievements, but that's what you got to do because that was quote unquote the meta, right? Is people like talk about like Fortnite and what the gun meta is. Well, the achievement meta was like if you wanted to keep up, you had to play everything because you knew other people would play it. If you weren't going to play Puppy Rescue and get to 1,000, someone else would, and that's 1,000 gamer score you're not going to get, right?
Yeah,
so you had to. And in those days, there wasn't really anything quick and fast. Avatar, which for a long time was like the poster child, where you get 1,000 in like 2 minutes. That was kind of like the outlier for a long time. Now it's kind of the norm. Now you got games where you can get 1,000 gamer score in like 10 minutes. In fact, I think one just came out and you can get 1,000 gamer score in 15 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, so
turn the game on. Yes.
So I was like playing all these games, getting all these achievements, meeting some cool people, and then, just like with everything else, cheaters had to ruin it all because people discovered things they could do because like the 360 was modded, so you can like kind of screw around with the save files and the profiles, and you can like basically load up someone's save or like a modded save that as soon as you would load it up, it would give you all the achievements, right? And stuff like that. So
I never knew that happened. That's crazy.
And there was like a website, like I think it was called mygamercard.net, that like had a leaderboard of like everybody's like a leaderboard of who had the most gamer score. And once that kind of happened, people started cheating to be like number one or whatever, right?
Right.
So you had all these people cheating. And you knew people were cheating because people were getting these online achievements offline. It was just like, come on, you can't get an online achievement offline. People were like unlocking their first achievement would be beat the game and stuff. Like you knew who cheated because you could look at the achievements and tell, right? But we never thought. But so there was within that. So you talked about the community that kind of like formed around achievements. And then people started cheating. So then people were like very vocal against it. Like I was one of them. Like I think you guys are pathetic. I'm never going to cheat. and there was a few other people who felt the same, and then that community of like the non-cheaters kind of banded together,
Hmm.
and we now thought like Microsoft's not going to care, right? Why would they care? They're not going to do anything, but they did. And they started resetting people's gamer scores. I forget what year it was. Maybe 2009. I totally forget, but I noticed that like my position on the leaderboard went from like, I don't know, 50th to like 10th after they
Wow.
removed a whole bunch of cheaters. And I was like, wow, I'm in the top 10, like, and I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if like I could like get to 1 million and be in the top 5, right? I never had any like aspirations to be number 1. I just,
Right.
was just like, I want to get to 1 million and I want to be one of the first. And I did. And I was in the top 5, and yeah, it was crazy. It was I don't do the achievement thing anymore because at some point, like even when I was playing games like Barbie Puppy Rescue and crap games,
Right.
there was still the enjoyment of unlocking the achievement, right?
Hmm.
Like you get that rush of dopamine or whatever, and you're just like, yeah, like. And even after I got the 1 million, I would still get that. Like I would love unlocking the achievements. But then all these indie games started coming out that started abusing the achievement system, and it felt like you were just giving money. You felt like you were just paying $5 to get the achievements, and you weren't even really playing the game.
Right.
And I remember playing a couple of these games where it was just like you played for 10 minutes, you didn't even have to beat it, and you get 1,000 gamer score, and like the achievements would all pop. And I just, for the first time in like, I don't know, would have been 2005 to
Hmm.
2000 whatever, so maybe like 12 years, nah, probably 13 years, I didn't feel the joy of seeing an achievement unlock. And I knew it
Right.
was over for me because it was just I just was just like they took the fun out of it, right? Like a couple
Yeah.
publishers of indie games sort of like realize that, hey, achievement hunters will buy whatever we sell as long as like these games are super quick and easy. So that basically broke. Yeah, that basically just kind of made me not want to do it anymore, and I've pretty much completely stopped. I only
Right.
go at like for all the achievements in a game if it's something I love. Like recently, I did it with Elden Ring.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, yeah, I just kind of, I no longer get that sensation or that feeling, when an achievement unlocks.
Right. Right. Yeah. I bet
So,
it was a good feeling. I mean,
yeah,
at
no, I
that time.
mean, yeah, and I know people will be listening to this and saying, like, well, that's an exception. And I'm like, yeah, of course it was. Like, you don't play as many games as I did and play through bad games simply to get achievements. But it was, I don't know, it was fun to me. I met a lot of great friends. I played a lot of great
Yeah.
games. And it was great. And then it was just kind of all came down to like a crashing end because of the greed of some people. Now, there are people out there getting 3 million gamer score now,
Hmm.
and I'm sure they're doing it because they still have that at least innate desire and love for it. But I lost mine for it a while back.
Well, it's understandable. I mean, like you said, if it kind of takes a little bit of the joy out of it because of the of the way it was achieved, then yeah, I could see where you could definitely be kind of I'm done with this. Why just throw money just to get the points? You really had nothing else to prove, to be honest with you. So, yeah, there was a game. Do you remember these? Because I'm not sure if they had achievements. The Burger King games.
Dude, like Sneak King and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm
I
trying
didn't
to.
actually play those though.
Okay, I was just curious if those were something that came out because I remember I worked at GameStop and we get a bunch of that stuff traded in. I mean, like there was like nothing. We give nothing for them, 50 cents or a quarter or something like that. But
Yeah, because I think they were given away in like Happy Meals maybe or
it's
something. I
some kind
forget.
of meal. Yeah, exactly.
But
You
I
had to
mean,
make some kind of purchase.
they were bad games, and I think they were only worth 200 gamer score at the time.
So they weren't like the full big
Yeah,
chunk. That's cool.
they
That's
didn't
cool.
they didn't change it to like where every game is worth the full 1,000 until the Xbox One generation.
Yeah.
which probably also sort of ruined the gamer score system. Because like the indie games on the 360 were like 200, and then they
Yeah.
raised it to 400 later on. But now like you have like 10 indie games that come out every week, and most of them aren't good. And there's at least like 2 a week that come out that are like, play this game for 5 minutes to get 1,000 gamer scores. It's like, okay.
No, I'll pass. There you go. So how did it? I mean, obviously I wish I had Fonzarelli's soundboard where he's got where he's
Yeah.
captured your line that you say every episode, which is awesome. The man with the million.
The man with the million. Yeah.
There it is. There it is. So with that, how did it all come about that? I mean, you actually hit your million mark at an E3, but
Yeah, I did.
how did it come to fruition? I mean, did they reach out to you as you were getting close,
No.
or so what's up?
It's kind of like a set of circumstances that kind of
Okay.
aligned.
Do you mind sharing that with us?
No, because I've told the story in the past.
Cool.
So I ended up meeting like Tim Dog.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know who Tim Dog is.
Yes, I do.
And I ended up meeting
I know
like
who he is. He doesn't know me.
I ended up meeting like Southbound as well. And this was around like 2000, maybe early 2015.
Mhm.
And we formed a podcast called TXR, the Xbox Roundtable. And through Tim and Southbound, I ended up meeting head of Xbox, Phil Spencer.
Nice.
And we started playing games together and stuff when he was available. So he knew that I was close to a million. And during one of the times we were playing Halo 5, he was like, it'd be cool if like you come to E3 and like on the stage just break 1,000,000 gamer score. That would be so cool. And everybody was like, what? And like, yeah, that would be a dream, right? And I remember a few months had passed, and I had emailed Phil and I was like, hey, you mentioned this, and I was just kind of curious, like, is that something that would be possible or something that you guys would like to do? And he's like, you know what? He's like, let me ask the team, because we're talking about E3 plans now, and I'll get back to you. And I was like, all right, cool. And then he emailed me back and was like, yeah, the team loves the idea, so here's what we're gonna do. So yeah, it was basically the good fortune of meeting people who knew him,
Mm-hmm.
and then getting to know him well enough where he was like, hey, this would be a cool thing. And then I reached
Yeah.
out, and I was kind of like pushed the issue, like, hey, is this were you joking, And he was like, no, let's do it. So yeah, so then it was like, okay, you're gonna come to E3, you're gonna prep. So they wanted me to prep Halo Infinite or Halo 5,
Right.
and they wanted me to prep as a backup the Ori in the Blind Forest for beating the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Halo 1 was super easy because all I had to do was just like, I just need to beat this one level on Insane or on Legendary.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a really short level. It was like I just basically had to walk somewhere and just end the level, and I would get the achievements for beating all the levels on Legendary. And there was going to be like, okay, you're going to sit down, you're going to play it with Phil, and you're going to get the achievement, you're going to get million, and then there'll be an interview, etc., etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I showed up there that day, my first E3 blight, by the way, like E3 2016. Like, it was
Nice.
always a dream of mine to go. And Microsoft invited me, so I had like the badge and everything. And it was just before they opened it up to the public, so it was like still
Right.
like pretty much just the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, it was like, okay, we're gonna pre-record this. So it was already different. They're like, there've been some changes. So like, they want, instead of doing Halo, they wanted to do Ori, and they wanted it to be pre-recorded. So I did that, and then I would have come back 4 hours later for the live interview part where Jessica Chobot was interviewing Phil about something, and then they introduced me. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the story of how it all came to be. So
That is cool. And do you mind if I show the picture?
sure, go ahead.
So, and you can some people recognize who some of
yeah,
these are.
it's pinned on my Twitter.
There you go. There you
Yep.
go. So I guess we got what, Larry Herb.
Yeah, there's Larry Herb. He didn't want to take the picture with us, and Phil
Oh,
kind of was like, "Come on, Larry," because I was like, "Hey, can I get a picture?" And I was there with Mike,
yeah.
and Phil was like, "Yeah," and then like Larry was walking away, and I'm like, "Come on, Larry," and like he was like, "Nah," and then Phil was like, "Nah, get over here, Larry." So yeah,
Boss
so
said you got to do it.
yeah, pretty
Then,
much.
and then Phil Spencer, then yourself, and then who's the other gentleman
That
on that
is
side?
Mike Ibarra, who is pretty good friends with, and then he left Xbox to go to Blizzard, and now he might be coming back to Xbox. So
Well, let's hope the deal goes through, right? Let's hope that
yeah,
all works out, dude. That's awesome, and thank you for letting us show it here today. So anybody ever questions, it's like, well, there you go. Dave, he was on my show.
that's right.
We got to see what he looks like on my show. I'm just kidding, but you've stated that if somebody wants to see what it would look like, go to my
Yeah, it's
Twitch or
my pinned thing on Twitter, and it has been
Twitter. Yeah.
since it happened.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's a great photograph, and a really cool memory and a great story, dude. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
so with that, I guess you've gone on to other podcasts. How did I guess you and Jez kind of get together to form the juggernaut
The
that is
juggernaut,
Xbox Two?
please. This,
It's a great
we
podcast.
aren't RDX, so
Oh.
or XNC. We're not Cold Eastwood or Dealer Gaming.
Well, those guys haven't been on my show, so you have been though, because you're here. So,
So
so
how did
how'd it
that
get
come
started?
about? So
Yeah.
I mean, I had kind of known of Jez being on Twitter.
Hmm.
And then when I went to E3 2016, I ended up like being next to him in line a couple times. And we struck up like, conversations and stuff. And then we kind of kept the friendship going after E3. And then sometimes we would have these conversations in Skype where we would just talk about Xbox and some of the things I was hearing from people and some of the things he was hearing from things. And we would have these like 2 hour like long calls just talking about stuff. And I remember him saying like, "Hey, man, this is kind of like a podcast. Like, it's a shame nobody's ever going to hear any of these conversations." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, maybe we should do one." And at the time, I was doing the Xbox Roundtable
Right.
with like Tim Dog and Southbound and a couple other guys. And I was like, you know what? Like, and I kind of was like already kind of, I don't know if I had started my own YouTube channel or I was thinking about doing it. And I was just like, yeah, you know what? That'd be really cool. No, so I had already started it. And I was like, yeah, you know what? That'd be cool. So we just decided to do a podcast together. It was basically going to be our Skype conversations or whatever. And we started it. It's pretty close to the 5-year anniversary now. Because we started it like right when Digital Foundry revealed the specs of the Xbox One X,
Wow.
which was in April of 2017. So it would be we're getting close to 5 years. So yeah, we've been doing it for like 5 years now, and it was all just based because like Jez was just like, "Hey, I think people would like this conversation," and so I was like, "Okay." Like we didn't know if people would, so then we started, and the first episode wasn't called Xbox 2 because we didn't have a name.
Right.
And then I think someone from the chat when we were asking for names said, "How about Xbox 2?" And me and Jez really liked it because it was like it kind of fit two separate things. Like because if you remember, there was going to be a next gen console, and everybody was calling it the Xbox 2.
Right.
Because like what is it going to be 360 to Xbox One, Xbox 2? Nobody knew what the naming convention was, so it fit that. And then it was just me and Jez, so the Xbox 2, just And we thought the podcast was at least unique within the community because for the most part, most podcasts around that time were groups of 4 to 5. There wasn't a lot of podcasts at all really that were just 2 people. So, we were kind of unique in that aspect. And, so we're still doing it. It's going on 5 years. Powered by Manscaped and all that good stuff, right? So
What's your Manscaped code in case somebody wants to put that in?
the code XB2.
There you
Yeah,
go. There you go. Hopefully, you get a couple off that. So
yeah.
that's awesome. And I guess so. So you guys have been like friends for a long time, and you guys. I mean, I love the show. And there's some days when you guys go for like 3.5 hours.
Yep. It can
That's
get long
awesome.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, but it's not. It's never boring. I'll tell you that right now. It's very enjoyable content. I enjoy you guys' takes, and obviously a lot of other people do because you have a pretty huge audience. So that's awesome. So I guess with that, let's talk about some of the I guess the games that like I guess what would be like your favorite franchise of all time. There's like, what would you like? Oh, I've got to play it. It can be more than one if you need to.
I mean, favorite franchise of all time is easily probably Halo.
Halo, yeah.
Um, but I mean, there's still more like Bioshock. I would say is another one.
It's a great one.
I would also say Resident Evil is one of my all-time favorites. There's just so many. Like even when you like, let's see, trying to think. Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy VII. If, like I said, you put like top 5 games of all time, I know Halo 2 be in there, but like Final Fantasy VII would also be in there because that also really spoke to me during my high school to college years. I was really kind of in that RPG phase where I'd play 7, 8, 9, 10, but then like Chrono Cross and like Shadow Hearts and
Yeah.
I'm not really into JRPGs anymore, but like there was a time where it was like that was my favorite genre. Yeah, but it's just like Max Payne,
Speaking of Max
like
Payne,
Grand Theft Auto, like there's just Max Payne the remasters were announced today or remakes, I think.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so there's just so many like great franchises. Dead Space is another one. I love the first 2 Dead Space games, and Dead Space 1 is getting remade as well, which is amazing. So, I mean, there's just a lot of great franchises. But if I had to pick one out of all, it'd be Halo. Because, like, the amount of time I spent... Like, if you're talking about amount of time spent playing, nothing compares to Halo. Because it wasn't just Halo 2. It was also then Halo 3 and Halo Reach,
Yeah,
where I spent thousands of hours playing. And I even still put a few, maybe like 200, 300 hours in Halo 5. So, like, if we're talking like the series I put the most time in, it's like undoubtedly the Halo franchise. So, that's easy favorite, number one right there,
yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. And it's infinite. I love it. I know it seems to have, I don't know. I just think that give it a little more time. I think it's going to be even more amazing, especially when the Forge and things like that come out. I think it's, my opinion. I just think it's going to be, when it's all said and done. I think it'll be, remembered as one of the better ones. Even, but that's just me. So I guess another question I'll give from you, and then if that's okay, is I guess what is the gaming franchise? Now I have to be careful on this one that you're or game itself that you're looking forward to the most that's been announced but is not out yet. Because I don't want to, because I understand there's you probably are privy to a few things that we don't talk about yet, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble or anything like that. So, but definitely, if there's something that you feel like that's coming out that you're like, oh man, I really want to try this. Is there something like that for you?
I mean, my number one most anticipated game that's announced right now is probably God of War Ragnarok.
Nice.
That I love the first game, so that would be number one on my list. Now, is it coming out this year? Is it coming out next year? I don't know, but it is like number one.
Right.
God, like Max Payne 1 and 2 getting remade. Like I'm not the biggest fan of remasters, but like if that's an honest to God remake,
Yeah.
like modern graphics and everything.
You talk about on fire right
Imagine like
there.
Max Payne 1 and 2 looking like Max Payne 3 or whatever. Like, oh my
Or
God.
or even better, right? Oh my god,
Yeah.
that would be so awesome.
Like the
Yeah.
new the Dead Space remake.
Hmm.
I am really interested in seeing how Starfield's going to turn out.
Hmm.
I love Elder Scrolls, and I'm not the biggest fan of Fallout. So there's a part of me that's. But here's the thing, I also am a sucker for sci-fi. So there's a part of me that's looking at that project that's like, okay, if it's sci-fi, that's kind of like speaks to me a little bit. But it's like,
Hmm.
is it going to be more like Elder Scrolls or more like Fallout?
Right.
So we'll have to see. I have good feelings about that game. I think I'm going to really enjoy it. The problem is there's a lot of games that are just like not really a lot of games announced because they just keep on. We don't even really know it's coming out at the end of the year.
You know.
You know, I'm also really looking forward to like Hellblade 2,
Oh
which
yeah.
if you're to say like Xbox game I'm looking forward to the most, it'd be definitely Hellblade 2 by far. I'm a big fan of the first game.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, be God of War Ragnarok. Like I can't wait to play that game.
Oh, and I agree with you. It's I mean, obviously the first one was just absolutely amazing, or should I say the last one, and basically, from what we understand, mainly the same assets, just a new story and maybe even tweaked up graphics, things like that. So
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be pretty good.
yeah, yeah. Now, I'm not sure if you even know the answer to this, or I just thought I'd ask. On something like, are we assuming that like Starfield is going to be a next gen only game, or do you
I
think
mean,
it's
as
going to
of right
be?
now, it's only announced for next gen.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be like a Xbox One because I don't think that they'll hold it back. But if they can put full force effort into to next gen graphics, I think that'd be awesome, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that is kind of a little bit disappointing so far. You know, of this gen is how many cross gen games there are.
Hmm.
Mainly because like the chip shortage is going on and nobody can buy a next gen console. But I mean, I think I always kind of thought. Well, actually, I thought 2022 would be the year they'd start moving away from cross gen. Like,
Hmm.
okay, you do it for 20, you do it for 2021. Maybe you start shaking loose of that in 2022. But it does seem like cross gen might be going into 2023, which is a tad bit disappointing. But
Right.
I mean, I understand it from the business side of things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does. It does make sense because of the chip shortage, like you said. But I think I'm on your side that really are ready for take full advantage of the next gen. Like let's blow people's doors off, with the abilities of these machines, without any kind of hold back or no holds barred kind of thing. I don't know. I think they're ready for it. I'm just hoping that I'm hoping. I know we're ready for it. I'm just hoping that they're ready for it pretty soon.
Yeah.
So I guess to kind of wrap things up, I first want to say thank you so much for being here today and for talking to us. Um, Pretty excited that you're on today, and I really appreciate you giving us the time to talk. So I guess if you don't mind, if there's any like, tell everybody where they can reach out at you and where they can find your show, and I think you're also on iTunes and stuff too. Is
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. The podcast is on pretty much all the major podcast platforms. Um, yeah, I mean, like, I'm on. I'm kind of on a sabbatical from social media, which is why sometimes it takes me forever to message people back. Like, I don't really. Sometimes I'll just like not check Twitter for like a week.
Right.
So I am on Twitter. It's Rand underscore AL underscore Thor underscore 19. I know it's a mouthful. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/RandallThor19. That's usually where I tell people to go because it has links to the social media stuff. And my gamer tag is RandallThor19 on Xbox. So yeah, we do the podcast with Jez from Windows Central every Friday, and if not Friday, it's on Saturdays because sometimes our schedules don't align or one of us is busy. So can't do a podcast solo. Well, I mean, I could do a podcast solo, but like it's Xbox 2, not Xbox One.
Right, right.
So sometimes, most of the time, it's on Friday. Some of the times it's on Saturday. But for the most part, we always at least try to do the show. There might be, we might miss a week every like 3 months or something.
Life
But
happens.
for the most part, yeah, like you said, life happens and stuff. So that's where you can check out my content, which should be resuming shortly. I haven't been making videos, but the sabbatical, the hiatus from social media is ending.
Nice.
So
Well, like I said, I do appreciate you reaching out reaching back to me, I should say. And I've reached out to a lot of people, and it's one of those things where it's like you just want to try and be patient without bugging somebody. And hopefully, I wasn't a pain in your side, and I do appreciate that you
no,
did
no,
make
it was
time
it was
for us
fine. It was just I
today.
remember I didn't check Twitter in a while, so I went and I looked through my messages, and I remember, oh yeah, because I said I would, and then I was like, all right, well, when do we want to do this? So
Yeah, yeah. Well, and to ask my wife that day when you messaged me back, and I was just like, oh my god, it's finally happening. So yeah, so this is exciting for us that you're here, and I know a lot of people wanted to know more about you, and like I said, you're a great guy. Your show is fantastic. Actually, I definitely recommend that everybody listen to your show, even if you're not necessarily an Xbox fan. If you're just a video game fan, it's worth the listen. It is you and Jez, you're back and forth. It's funny, it's humorous, and you really get into it because you guys have been there a long time and you know what you're talking about, and that's it's important because there's some people out there that just like to be haters and stuff, and
yeah,
you guys aren't like that, and that's it's appreciated, and it's very enjoyable. And all you have to do is go to your YouTube channel, Randall Thor19. Make sure they hit the like button, hit the little bell button so they get notified, like I do every time your show comes on. I'm like, boom, got to make time for that.
yep, got to
So
hit that subscribe. Yeah, the YouTube man is just like hit the subscribe, but hitting subscribe's not enough anymore. You got to hit that little bell icon. So
it makes a difference. It seems to anyway. So, but yeah. So anyway, everybody can reach us at outbreakpodcast.com. This is Outbreak Gamers, of course. I'm been your host, David Anthony. I don't even know if I introduced myself at the beginning. Probably went right into it. Look, I got Randall Thor. Oh goodness, Rand, thank you so much for being here, and thanks everybody for tuning in and watching us. And we'll continue to keep it here, and we'll get more and more influencers on. And thanks for joining us here at Outbreak Gamers.